Lifestyle, child of God. What's going on with you? These airplanes, man. Stay out of the skies. Stay out of the skies, man. You know what I mean? Stay out of those skies, player, because they out here falling out the sky. You know what I'm saying? I gotta look up just so that I don't get hit by one of the planes falling out the sky. Lifestyle here, child of God. It's a beautiful Friday. What is it? What is it today? Today is the 23rd of May, everybody. As you already probably know. You don't need me to tell you the date. It always cracks me up when folks do that when they start their videos. Like, yeah, it's Friday, May 23rd, 2025. Like, dog, we know that already. Just get to the point. But I like the dude that does that, though. I like him, though. But he does it habitually, and it's very interesting. But I'm writing a part 2 to Skano's 216 Skano was good. Like, if I could join you in this conversation that you had recently about how killers are the most respected and the most highly respected in the neighborhoods, in the hood, right? And you are absolutely correct. You know what I mean? You talked about it, but I wanted to go in more depth about it, if that's okay with you. And I wanted to share this video with you because, number one, I've been following you for a little bit of time, and I respect your content. Your content is content that's needed, actually. We need folks like you to talk about the type of time and the type of content that you're talking about. You feel what I'm saying? So I respect it. Plus, I need something to do because I just been kind of lounging around, and not that I'm sad. It's just the Lord got me where He want me, I guess. And it seemed like there's no way out sometimes. But I just had like a 6-7 part dream about a particular person, a lady, a woman, and I'm just like, oh my God, like I want to go to sleep, but like I don't want to keep dreaming about this person. You feel me? But anyways, back to what you was talking about, Skano. Much respected and salute to you. Plus, I like that. I know it's not a Naruto, it's a ninja tattoo, but it reminds me of Naruto. I respect your tat, like that on the neck right there. Shit is hard. You know what I mean? If I could get a tattoo, I'd get one like that. I think I would get one like that. I think I would. But anyways, Skano 216. Like, look, dog, you exactly correct. Like, killers get the most respect, the most prestige. It doesn't matter what you come back as in the hood. And it doesn't just go for killers, it go for the sisters too. Like the sisters that got the beat and the rhythm, right? There's sisters that be scripting, falling down on poles and stuff. Like the sisters that be out here letting the killers hit it at the same time, if you feel my drift. They be freaking off, right? Like those type of sisters get mad kudos in the hood, right? Because they're around the killers, they're around the ambiance of those guys. But let me take it back. I wanted to talk about the women element of you were talking about why everybody wants to be a killer in the hood and everything, right? Because they get the most respect, the most prestige. But let's take it to the last thing you said in your interview. That's what I really agree with. And I think women have a lot of control over that, right? Remember, and this world was built for women. Everything a man does is for the woman. Even nowadays, everything a man does is really for survival, right? But we still do it because the outcome is to get a woman, right? And that was a part of the not only American dream, but the world dream, right? But everything that we do as men is for women, right? Working, getting in the house, getting in the car, looking good, smelling good. All of that is to attract a mate that's suitable, that's equally yoked, right? So that we can produce children. You know what I mean? And women look at those things as whether you're suitable or not to not only handle her, but to, well, not only if you're suitable or not, but to test the ranges of whether she should allow access to sex, you know what I mean, with her, right? And so when you were saying what you were saying, Skino, I was like, this brother is right on point. Like, he's right on point. But let me go back again to the book of Adam and Eve conflict with Satan. You see, this all started, and I'm gonna use Bible references because I am lifestyle the child of God, you feel me? But this all started from Cain and Abel. And see, a lot of people think that because they don't have the knowledge of that other book, the book of Adam and Eve conflict with Satan. I recommend my brother to read that book. In that book, the book of Adam and Eve conflict with Satan, Cain didn't kill Abel because Abel's work, his craftsmanship, his effort into his passion, into what he does, you know, growing the best crops and giving the best to the Lord. That's not why Cain killed Abel. You see, because God chose Abel's gift as a gloriful, righteous gift, and he didn't choose Cain's, but he told Cain, you can still do good. You know, next time I might choose you if you do better, right? But the parents, Adam and Eve, they wanted to offer Abel a gift. And the gift was a woman. The gift was a woman, the most gorgeous woman, which was based on the book of Adam and Eve. Cain came with a twin. Abel came with a twin. You know what I'm saying? They had twins. They were female twins. And they wanted to pair Abel with Cain's twin, who was the prettiest woman. She was gorgeous, right? And so Cain, that's what flipped Cain up a notch. You see what I'm saying? Because they were trying to marry Abel to Cain's twin sister, in which case she was fine. She was gorgeous. Now Cain wanted his own sister. He wanted his own twin sister. He was like, you can't have my sister, cuz. He was like, nah, you can't do that. And they was going to give Cain Abel's sister, which kind of makes sense, right? You don't want, if you're the progenitors of life, right, you don't want to, even though my theory is a little bit more expounded than that, but we're just going off of the information we have from the book of Adam and Eve and Genesis, right? And so when you're the progenitors of the human race, right, yeah, you don't want no direct link, even though y'all are all related. You don't want no direct link. Like you're not supposed to be having babies with your twin, right? So we got to switch it up. We got to cross reference. We got to cross pair. But Cain didn't want what he considered the ugly woman. Cain didn't want it. And so Cain took Abel's life, right? And it made God angry. The earth cried out and all the things that we know that happened. And Cain became cursed from there on. But the Lord still allowed him to be with his twin sister. Because in the book of Adam and Eve conflict with Satan, we find out that they both were banished. Cain was allowed to keep that woman, the fine woman, the finest, the woman, right? But Cain now became a killer. And Cain said to himself and the Lord, like, look, I know that you punished me and I'm wrong for what I did, but now others are going to try to kill me, which goes into the part of they weren't the only progenitors on earth, right? They weren't the first, right? Because Who else would be trying to kill you if it's only you on the earth, right? But you have to read the book of Adam and Eve to understand that. But anyways, in reading that, I understood when I first read the book, I understood, I said to myself, that's why. That's why the killers are more respected in the neighborhoods, right? That's why the killers seem to get all the dimes and all the gorgeous girls and stuff like that. Now it's different in a sense, but they still got their same prestige. Like a woman love a killer. And you're absolutely correct when you said that, Skino. But this is where I believe, as I try to jump into the conversation with you, this is where I believe it came from. It came from the original killer, Cain. And as we traverse through the Bible, we can see other stories similar to that, right? Joseph. Now, he didn't have nobody killed, but Joseph worked really hard, right? He wanted Rachel. That was the apple of his eye. She was fine, right? Rachel was fine. Her sister Leah wasn't that good looking. The Bible said that she was not that good looking. But it was her sister Rachel who Joseph wanted. Mind you, Jacob wanted Jacob. Now Jacob wanted Rachel, not Leah. Rachel was the gorgeous, fine one. Leah was not as good looking, or was described as not as good looking. Now Leah, she got, after Jacob worked the 7 years, Leah got given to Jacob. So he got tricked. You know what I mean? And he was like, yo, the business deal, because back then, in those days, we did business deals to acquire women, right? And we were a little bit more ruthless and barbaric. Women were acquired from the man, from the head of the household, right? You went to the head of the household and you basically bought you a woman, right? However they purchased them. You know what I'm saying? However they purchased them, right? One of the ways. I don't want to put that entirely solely on the men were just buying women. No, that's just one of the ways. But if you traverse that to the future, we buy women. Not in the sense of from the father anymore, or from the mother, or whatever living parent, relative that woman may have, but we buy these women straight out. And that's what's messing the market up. I'll get to that. But anyway, so Jacob, he had to work another 7 years. So he worked 14 years and he obtained 2 women. He would have only had one, but he got played by his mother's uncle. You know what I mean? Because he was really trying to get rid of both of the daughters. He didn't want to take care of 2 daughters anymore. I'm trying to apply current knowledge and the way of thinking to some of how they thought back in those days, right? And at some point in a man and woman's life that has children, you want your children to grow up and do their thing. And so, I guess Leah and Rachel's dad got tired of raising them and taking care of them, because you pretty much took care of your kids until they got married off. And so Jacob, he had to work double time. So he had to do 14 when the agreement was originally 7 years. But he ended up working 14 and he ended up attaining both of them. He did end up getting Rachel, the one he actually desired. And they procreated Joseph. Rachel and Jacob procreated Joseph. Those brothers that hated on Joseph, that tried to have him killed, that threw him down a well, that sold him into slavery, them goddamn Leah's kids. That's from his lineage on Leah's side. Because remember, as he married both of them, they were in this like competition with each other, Rachel and Leah, to see who could have the most kids. And Rachel fine ass couldn't have that many children. She had children, but she didn't have as many as Leah did. Leah had the most. And Leah kept throwing it in her face. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? I just had another one. She was on her DJ Khaled, like, another one. You know what I mean? And so here go Joseph, here go Jacob laying up with these hens. That's not a good example, but here go Jacob laying up with these hens, right? Just laying up on them. Whoever get pregnant, you know, they got wealth from the dad because Jacob worked 14 years, so he obtained some of that wealth from the dad so that he could take care of those two women and those children, right? But here it is that the women are fighting over who can procreate more than the other, right? But not exactly the same as the Cain and Abel story, right? Where we're dealing with killers, but we're dealing with wealth now, right? So let's go on, because there's more Bible stories. So let's talk about David. Now we're back to the killers. That's why people, and this is why when you put that post up, I just seen it today. I was like, yo, Skino was on point because David was a killer. He had become a killer from a shepherd. He was no longer a shepherd, really. He was a killer. He was a serviceman. You know what I mean? But he became a killer when he put Bathsheba, who was fine. Are you see what I'm saying? Bathsheba was described as super fine. Bathsheba was like, oh, who your husband? David found out who her husband was and put him on the front lines, that he would be the first one killed in battle. He set it up. He set up a kill. He was a shot caller. He was he was appointed. He was a shot caller, you know what I mean? He was the one, you feel what I'm saying? Him being king and all. And so he had Bathsheba's first husband put on the front lines so that because he knew he was going to die. Bathsheba's husband was, I don't know, $130 to $150. I'm just making this up. They don't describe him. But he was $130 to $150, somewhat handsome, you know what I mean? And, he just wasn't David. And David thought to himself in his mindset and said, I'm about to have her riding on top of me. I'm about to have her doing all types of freak off type stuff. You feel what I'm saying? I'm going to freak her out. Brief interlude. Freak out. Just do it. Move. Freak out. Oh, freak out. So David was trying to freak Bathsheba out because she was fine, like super fine. And Bathsheba didn't question, from what we know, and we need to see her memoir. You know what I mean? Because I want to know how she felt about her first husband and David. Now, God did punish David because they got pregnant, him and Bathsheba, and he killed that first child, right? The Lord took that first child. But the thing is he let them stay together. The Lord let Bathsheba and David stay together, right? And they had a second child, and that was Solomon. What? So the promised child who was coming after David to rule was Solomon via Bathsheba and David, right? And God still said to himself that he was going to use Solomon, even though Bathsheba was somebody else's husband. Somebody else's wife. Right? And although God did punish him, he still blessed Solomon. Right? still blessed Solomon. Solomon was the second king after David passed. So I'm like confused with the Lord. Like, I'm like, Lord, what? Huh? And this go back to what they say, like, you'll never know who God uses. You know what I'm saying? You don't know who God gonna use. He uses who he wants to use, sinner or not. Right? But it's just like, Lord, what part of the game is this? Like, how you, it's like, that's not punishment. You know what I mean? It's like you wanted them to be together, right? Not necessarily. It's just that God said that, he still was going to bless David because David was a man after his own heart, meaning that he constantly was in repentance. About the things he was doing. Constantly looking for the Lord. No matter what the devastation is of his life, no matter what triangled on him, right? Whatever stalked him, right? Mentally and physically. David had been through a lot, and he stayed faithful to the Lord. And so the Lord always blessed him for that. But David was a killer. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta interpret these things. Like, that's why I'm so glad you talked about it, because it's the foundational truth. Women love a man who will kill for them. Not all women, but a lot of women and I'll say what you didn't say in our community, in the black community, right? Now, people from the black community might be like, no way, no how, see ya. They might say, no way, no how, see ya. Meaning that they just don't agree with me, right? But women like money, dog. Women like money. That's where the saying, happy wife, happy life comes from. Because as long as you can keep her happy, and you need money to do that, it's not everything, but you need money to keep a woman happy, right? She need to feel like she's always a daughter, that she's always cared for, that she don't have to worry for not. But that's why that's why I tend to like some of the hood sisters or some of the more down-to-earthy sisters, right? Because you don't gotta have money with them. It's more about them, you just being there and never leaving them. You feel what I'm saying? And that's what I like. That's what I like about that's what I like about some of our sisters in the hood, because they don't always, a lot of them don't have men. They might lay up with a man, and this man might have multiple children by multiple women, but essentially that's how we did things, not only in Africa, but in communities across the world. Look at Genghis Khan. Yo, that dude, Genghis Khan, from the Mongols, right? This dude's genetics is all across the world still to this day. He had tens of thousands of wives. If he thought to stick it in you, it was going in there and he was impregnating you. That was it. Genghis Khan, look that up. People across this world to this day have his genetics running through their blood. And that was because he was a whoremonger. Like, he conquered everything that he foreseen to conquer, but then his ass impregnated everything as well. He had many of children, and I do mean many. I think he had something like thousands of children. Let's just be honest. Like, I don't know the exact statistics. I'm on video camera, so I can't Google it and ask AI. But AI, if you look it up, Skino, AI is gonna let you know, like, yeah, he's got thousands of children, and more than thousands now, because we in 2025. So his genetics done ran across the world 3 times over. But that's how we did things. And remember, Genghis Khan was a killer. He was a serviceman, but he was a killer. He seeked power, right? And that's one thing I'm noticing. Well, I've always known, but I refuse to accept it, because I know women, if they're the goddesses that they say they are, they're supposed to overstand some of these sinful things that fall into their aura. Basically meaning they should be able to overstand money. They should recognize men and the potential that they have and increase it, you know. And it's interesting because they say every good man has a great woman behind him, and every man that falls because of a woman. So it's the greater and the lesser, that women find themselves having to make choices and decisions about these things. And we really should talk to Steve Harvey's wife, his current wife. You know what I mean? Because she didn't been with them dealers, them dope dealers and them guys. You know, she's always been with a hustler. You know what I mean? I think Steve is one of the people that's not necessarily a hustler per se. I don't know what's going on with this camera, but you know, Steve a hustler, but just not in the same way, because she's notoriously been known to deal with like street hustlers, you know what I mean? And her first child or whatever was by a street hustler, and then she moved on to the dude that she was dealing with. She moved on to his cousin. See how things don't far too far from the lineage. You know what I'm saying? Like when it going back to Cain and Abel and their wives being their twins, right? But they not crossing over, meaning that one person gets my twin, the other person gets my twin. Cain pretty much took his twin by force. So you're exactly right. Like, killers do get the most prestige. And at some point in my life, in my mind, I was like, you know, I gotta do it. You know what I mean? I gotta go to the next level in my pursuit. Not only to lock the women that I want down and the women that I adore down, but really to assert my power, right? And you're right, like, in that world that you were talking about, right? It's like the John Wick world, right? You become like one of those assassins. You know what I mean? In the John Wick world, where nobody else's perception or worldly views or anything matters. You only see what you see, and nobody else can see you. You're like a ghost, but you're not a ghost. You know what I mean? You're like a ghost, but you're not a ghost. And you live in this different realm of things, of perception and how you view things and see things and etc., right? So you're exactly correct, Skano. And I'm going to end this because I've been talking to you for about 30 minutes. And I don't know if it was entertaining enough to keep your attention. But, you know, I think that in order to... Well, first of all, let me get back to what I was saying really quickly. You know, I was in that realm of about to jump off the porch in that way that you're speaking of, right? Where everybody had to die. Everybody had to die. Like, purify the earth, you know what I mean? And let's rebuild it. That was the mindset. We're going to purify the whole earth. We're going to cleanse it, you know what I mean? I was on my Thanos. I was on my dark seed, you know what I mean? We're going to purify this land, and we're going to cleanse it, and we're going to start anew. You know what I mean? We're going to purify the land, we're going to cleanse it, and we're going to start anew. We're going to rebuild it, you know what I mean? In my image, you know what I'm saying? But I had to remember one of God's laws. Thou shalt not kill. man, one of God's only commandments to us is thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill is one of the 10 commandments. And so, because I fear God, number one, and because I love the Most High, number two, those things, those mindsets that cleanse the earth, take it over and cleanse it and rebuild it, that I need to take in order to get the females that I want. I gotta destroy and unalive people to get there. That mindset had to be unalived, right? That mindset had to be unalived. You know what I mean? Because nobody deserves to die, and dying is not a beautiful thing unless you grow, unless it's of old age, right? But yeah, man, I just wanted to connect with you, Skino, 216 Skino, because I always felt like a little bit of a connection with you in your mindset of how you think about things, because I totally understand it. And yeah, I've definitely been in some situations where I was supposed to cleanse the earth. Well, I was supposed to turn in the dark seed of Thanos and absorb the power. Oh, no, even better. I was supposed to turn into Highlander. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, straight Highlander shit. You know what I'm saying? Just cold, slice a nigga head off and absorb the power. You know how they absorb the power, the electricity and the lightning struck, and they were just like they got stronger when they were killing each other in Highlander via sword, which is a powerful thing, right? So the Highlander, dude, that was a cool series. You should check it out. But yeah, I had to unalive the Highlander in me. You know what I mean? Because the Lord said thou shalt not kill. That's one of his commandments. And although there's been many of people who have disobeyed that commandment in the Bible, a lot of the people turn around and repent after they do it. You know what I mean? After people go with their first lobes mindset, a lot of people turn around and repent to the Lord because they didn't really want to kill. They did it, but they didn't really want to do it, and they're repentive afterwards. They see the sorrow that comes after it. You know, I forgot what it's called. It's a word when you learn from somebody by just being around them and just hearing them talk. No, I'm one of them kind of learners. And I done been around enough folks, some of those who might have been killers or are killers, to know that that's not what I want from me. You know what I mean? That's not what I want from me. But to end this segment, and I hope that you do a part 3 in response to what I'm saying, so that we could, or maybe we could jump on a live together and talk about things. But that would be fun. But yeah, I mean, I think that we gotta start not only as men standing up to that mindset and reprogram the mindset that is in others, right? But we got to also encourage the elder women to start teaching the women and down generations to generations to not go after those trends, right? Don't follow money, follow your heart. Don't follow the killer, right? Although he may be attractive, his motherfucking ass might kill you. You know what I'm saying? And so we gotta not follow these trends, but we have to teach women. It has to be indoctrinated, and it's gonna have to be indoctrinated for some years, right? For a good amount of years, that we can get that mindset out of our community. Because remember, for 400 years, we were indoctrinated into slavery. And all types of different mentalities got all types of different things were indoctrinated into us that we still carry out to this day. And we're overcoming it, but we haven't overcome it. You feel what I'm saying? And so we got to get there. We got to get there. And one of the ways we get there is we got to re-educate the women. The women have to be re-educated. The women have to make a choice and stop being attracted to things that they're attracted to. Anyways, I'm going to leave this for part 3. Hopefully we can do it together. I'm gonna throw your name in there so you can catch wind of it. But lifestyle here, child of God. Peace.